Hey makers, I'm Bree from the team here at Minerva. Today's video is all about sewing up one of my favorite trends at the moment, summer romance. I have picked 7 soft, sweet fabrics and 7 beautiful patterns perfect for sewing up some lovely romantic garments this summer. Of course, I will link everything down below so you can see all of the product details and check out what other makers have sewn up for even more sewing inspiration. So before we get into project ideas, I wanted to talk a little bit more about what the trend summer romance entails. It's kind of my favorite trend right now because in a way it's sort of not a trend. It is in that we are seeing some specific details highlighted on the runway and in the shops, but summer romance is more about incorporating like vintage details into classic silhouettes. So it is a trend, but it's one that includes some timeless pieces that you could return to season after season. I'd say this trend is a bit more subjective. It's more about bringing that soft etherealness into your pieces more so than it is about like specific prints or silhouettes. So with any overarching trend like this, I like to break it down into 4 points. So I like to talk about movement, details, color palette, and print and texture. I find breaking things down into these terms can really help me find some direction in order to search for patterns and fabrics. So I will take you through my little trend evaluation and then we will get to some sewing inspiration. So first up, summer romance. It's super floaty, it's very airy. We're looking at garments that you would like sway or waft around in. Most garments do feature some soft shaping, but we're not looking at hyper tailored or structured garments. So think tiered skirts, bishop sleeves. These are really good examples of garments that can like catch a lot of movement. So number 2 is details, and it is all about the details with summer romance. It is ruffles, ties, pin tucks, lace inserts, embroidery. It's really where that vintage inspiration comes in. So you could think about like ruffled collars, detailed cuffs, tiered skirts. All of that really kind of embodies that nostalgic, romantic feeling. The color palette is really soft, it's super natural and really low contrast. So I've seen a lot of muted tones like across the color wheel being used in this trend, but the most popular ones are definitely like ivory, blush, beige, and a little bit of light blue. In terms of print and texture, summer romance definitely leans more toward solid colors, which really let those details in the garments shine. I have also seen some muted florals, some ginghams and block prints, but again, everything is very soft focus. Texture though is really big in this trend, so there's lots of embroidery and lace details, natural fibers with some texture, so cotton, gauze, linen are going to work really well for that airy, natural feeling. So having thought through the aspects of movement, details, color palette, and print and texture, I have chosen some patterns and fabrics perfect for creating beautiful garments that hit that summer romance trend. So let's jump in. First up, I have one of my favorite patterns. It is the Davenport Dress from Friday Pattern Company. This design hits like so many of those summer romance trend points. It is a classic silhouette with a floaty skirt. It has soft shaping and a lot of pretty details. So there are 3 spots to put ruffles. It's got the hem, you've got a little one at the wrist as well as the shoulder. You also have an elasticated neckline, which creates some really cute gathering and also makes it easy to go on and off over your head. So there is a front and back yoke, which makes a really nice finish on the inside. Everything is enclosed and super clean. And then the little drawstring at the waist is another very cute detail. All around, I think this is such a great design that really works to incorporate like the spirit of summer romance into a dress that is really versatile and wearable for every day. The Davenport dress comes in Friday Pattern Company's full size range. So that's an extra small to a 7X. So that's hips 34 to 63 inches. Like I said, this is one of my favorite patterns. Not only is it a really cute design, but it's also very fun to sew. The Davenport does include some intermediate techniques, but the instructions are really detailed and helpful, and there's even a video sew along to help you through. The construction is really well thought out, and it makes for a very satisfying sew. So yes, it is a bit intermediate in terms of techniques, but I think it's really doable for a beginner as well. The Davenport is made for lightweight wovens, so cotton, lightweight linen work really beautifully to they hold the gathers of the design really nicely and lean into that kind of airy, light feel. Now, drapey fabrics like viscose, crepe, and silk will also work, but they will kind of have a swishier, drapier vibe. For my dreamy summer romance Davenport dress, I have picked this beautiful Atelier brunette double cotton gauze. So this is the colorway Maple, and it is such a good color pairing for that low contrast summer romance vibe with this ivory and this kind of biscuity pinky beige color. It has a really nice airy quality from the cotton gauze, and the open texture makes it feel really natural. My favorite thing about it though is that it is double-sided, so it has that same gingham but at a different scale here on the other side. I really love this for playing up the details in the Davenport dress. I think it would be so cute to use the different sides for maybe the yoke or the shoulder ruffles, just to bring in something a little different that still looks very intentional. Plus, I think the texture of this cotton gauze is really going to be great for giving some volume to those gathers in the Davenport while also having lots of nice movement still for that nice swishy skirt. Next, I have another dress, and it is one that I have absolutely fallen in love with. This is the Lavinia dress from Sew Me Something. It has gone straight to the top of my sewing list this summer. So Lavinia has a princess seamed bodice, and the panels create this really lovely square neck. And you can leave the center front plain, or you can create these gorgeous pin tucks. Now, pin tucks are such a beautiful vintage inspired detail that can really transform the look of a garment. Now, if I wasn't already sold on this dress, the sheared panel at the back would have done it for me. I love a bit of shearing, especially in a panel like this. It is such a pretty detail, and I love that little bit of texture there at the back. Plus, it makes the dress really comfortable, and you don't sacrifice any of the shaping. So I love that. Now, the gathered skirt comes in 2 lengths, so you can lean into that romantic vibe with the long ankle length, or you can keep it a bit cooler by cutting it at the knee. The Lavinia dress comes in UK sizes 6 to 18 and 20 to 34. So the 6 to 18 envelope is for hips 33.5 to 44.5 inches. The 20 to 34 envelope is for hips 50 to 63.5 inches. Now, in terms of difficulty, Lavinia is considered intermediate. There's nothing particularly difficult about the construction, but the pin tucks do require some extra attention, and the shearing can take some playing around on the machine with the tension, but it is definitely doable for confident beginners. Now, for fabrics, you'll want to look for something lightweight in the woven category. So cotton lawn, double gauze, viscose challis, and lightweight linens are going to be great. Now, keep in mind that different fabrics can hold the shearing a little bit differently, so you'll want to experiment with the tension on your sewing machine and use plenty of steam to gather in those stitches in with the elastic shearing thread. For an ultra romantic Lavinia dress, I have gone for my favorite lightweight linen. This is the Minerva Core range washed slub linen. The finish on this linen is so good. It has that really nice slubby texture, but there's also kind of a light sheen to it. It is super smooth, and it comes in over 25 colors. It's really pretty, and it feels just so amazing on the skin. So for the Lavinia dress, I have picked this almond colorway. I really like that it's kind of a warmer, more natural take on the classic white summer dress. I think Lavinia would be really cute in a print, but I love the idea of doing it in a solid light color like this almond slub linen to really let that front panel and the pin tucks really shine. So I think it'll make such a great classic romantic summer dress. So we've talked about ruffles and pin tucks, and the next pattern has both. So when it comes to romantic details, Tilly and the Buttons hit it out of the park with the Marnie blouse and dress. I love that this pattern really lets you dial up or play down the amount of detail. So starting at the no frills level, Marnie is a paneled A-line blouse or dress. It has a front and back yoke with a center front and back pieces that gather into that yoke seam. Now it has a round neckline with a small button and loop closure at the back. There is a two-piece sleeve, so you have your basic short sleeve and then this gathered piece that comes in to some elastic at the wrist. It is a super cute vintage inspired shape, and from there it just gets cuter. You can add ruffles at the neck for a really chic short stand collar. There's also ruffle options for the shoulder that tucks right into that princess seam. Now my favorite detail though are these zigzagged pin tucks. So there's options to add them either at the front yoke or at above the sleeve piece here for a really fun and different look. These ones look a lot different than those straight pin tucks because they actually get top stitched so that they kind of sit and flow in different directions, which is what creates that zigzag effect. Now, Marnie comes in the full Tilly and the Buttons size range. So that is Tilly sizes 1 to 15. That is roughly a UK 6 to 34. So we're looking at hips 33 to 61 inches. Marnie is considered an improver pattern. So the design has a lot of detail. It's not a great first garment project, but if you've sewn up a few dressmaking projects and you're comfortable at your machine, this is a project that you could take on as a confident beginner. It's not a complicated pattern, but depending on how many bells and whistles you go for, it could be a lot of details to keep track of. Now, Tilly's patterns are known for their great instructions, and there are sew-alongs to help if you get stuck anywhere along the way. Fabric choice is a really important part for the Marnie if you are going for the pin tucks. So you'll want something that is going to press really nicely and hold its shape while you're sewing it. So cotton and lightweight linen are going to be your best options. If you're skipping the tucks, you could go for something drapey like viscose tencel or crepe. I, of course, want to go all in on those gorgeous pin tucks, so I have picked a really beautiful cotton poplin for the blouse version. So this is the Minerva Core range 100% organic cotton poplin in the color Blush. It comes in over 20 colors and it's a really, really gorgeous cotton poplin. It's nice and lightweight. Now it is slightly heavier than a cotton lawn, but it is lighter than a lot of poplins I've seen out there. It's super, super smooth. It almost has a little bit of a sheen to it. There is some structure, but it's not stiff. So I think it's going to be a really perfect for holding the A-line shape and those pin tucks of the Marnie, but still offer a little bit of movement. So yeah, I think this is going to be such a great choice for the Marnie blouse with this organic cotton poplin. The next top pattern I have to share is the Kenny blouse from Style Arc. This is such a fun take on a classic blouse. The main feature is this pointed Chelsea collar with the ruffle going around it. I love a V-neck button front blouse, and this collar and ruffle detail just take it to the next level. While both of these features seem very vintage, the blouse also has a strapped shoulder and a curved hem, which make the Kenny blouse feel a little bit more modern. There is bust darts for shaping, and the sleeves gather really nicely into a little slip-over cuff. Now, Style Arc patterns come in a really good size range, which is split over 3 envelopes. So sizes 4 to 16 is for hips 32.5 to 44.5 inches. Sizes 10 to 22 covers hips 38.5 to 51 inches. And sizes 18 to 30 is for hips 46.5 to 61 inches. I really like that these size packaging includes a lot of overlap. So if you need to grade between sizes, as many of us do, you can check the size chart to determine which package is going to offer you the most options. Now, the Kenny blouse is an intermediate pattern. The written instructions are pretty sparse, so It's probably best if you have some experience sewing woven tops, but there is a video sew along for the Kenny to help you out. Construction is pretty straightforward, but depending on your fabric, getting that ruffle into the collar could require some more patience. Fabric recommendations for the Kenny blouse include lightweight wovens like cotton, lightweight linen, viscose, and silk. I wanted to go super classic for the Kenny blouse, so I have gone with the Minerva Core range Supima Smooth Cotton Lawn. And this fabric is just like lighter than air. It is so smooth, it's so fine. It feels really luxurious and really, really good on the skin. Now it is a little bit sheer. So for me, it is not too sheer for a blouse, but I would definitely line it if it were a dress or a skirt. So this is the cream colorway, but it also comes in white and black. Now, I know that an ivory blouse might seem a little bit boring, but I think that ruffle collar of the Kenny is going to give it a lot of character, and it's going to be a really great, versatile wardrobe piece. Next, I have a couple of skirt patterns. I saw so many tiered skirts and dresses on the runway and in the shops that I absolutely had to include the True Bias Maeve skirt. This pattern is a really great value. The line drawing here only shows 3 examples of how you can sew up the Maeve, but there are lots of options within the pattern. So the pattern consists of 3 main shapes. There is the skirt and then the ruffle tiers, and each come in lots of different lengths so you can mix and match to create a lot of different looks. Maeve has an elastic waist with a cute little drawstring, and it has pockets. I think the midi and the maxi length versions of the Maeve are spot on for the summer romance trend. All of that gathering makes for a lot of movement, lots of swishiness, and of course that elastic waist is going to be nice and comfortable. Maeve is available in the full True Bias size range. So the 0 to 18 envelope covers hips 34 to 46.5 inches. The 14 to 30 is for hips 43.5 to 59.5 inches. It is an easy pattern. The construction is really straightforward and the instructions are really thorough. Now, depending on how many tiers you go for, it can be a lot of gathering. Now, I really like the gathering process. I find that it's kind of a meditative sewing step and you can kind of like get into a nice flow about it. But if you're someone who doesn't love gathering, at least as much as I do, you could invest in a specialized foot for your sewing machine to make it a little easier, or just, set yourself a nice little reward, a light little snack after doing all the gathering. Now, Maeve was designed for light to medium weight wovens, so linens and cottons are really nice to sew it up in. They'll give those gathers a little more volume and the structure, and drapey fabrics like viscose, tencel, and crepe will have a softer, flowier effect, which is also really beautiful for the Maeve skirt. Generally, I love the look of viscose for a tiered skirt, but I really fell in love with the idea of having a chambray version. So I have gone with a pale blue cotton chambray. This one is from the Minerva Core range. I really love how much you can see the details of the weave in this one. So here up at the cut, we have this really bright, almost like cobalt blue, and it's woven in with the white. So you have kind of this overall effect is this kind of light, bright sky blue color. It's so, so pretty, and I really like the amount of structure this one has, so it's going to be really nice for holding in all of those gathers. It's super smooth, and I think it will feel so good to twirl and spin around in as a tiered Maeve skirt. The other skirt style I've been seeing a lot among this summer romance trend are bias cut skirts. I really like how slinky and swishy they are. They kind of like form to the body as you wear them. So for a bias cut skirt, I have picked the Megan Nielsen Wattle. Now this pattern not only comes with the bias skirt in 2 lengths, but it also includes a view of a pleated skirt and a gathered skirt as well. So it has a really unique like crossover closure at the left-hand side pocket. Now, all of the views close with buttons at the waistband, but you can decide if you want the buttons visible. You can also like up the detail level by adding a little tie at the waistband, which is super cute. The printed wattle comes in sizes 0 to 20, so that is hips 34 to 48 inches. Wattle is intended for confident beginners. Megan Nielsen instructions are really great, really nice to follow, and this is another great beginner project. Now, choosing fabrics for the wattle skirt is kind of a like choose your own adventure situation. Pretty much most light to medium weight woven fabrics are going to work, but the results are going to be very different. Now, the general rule of thumb definitely applies here that fabrics with more body, like cotton and linen, will create a more structured garment, and flowier fabrics like crepe, viscose, and tencel will have a softer, drapier garment. Now, it's good to point out that generally more structure is going to work best for that pleated view, and drapier fabrics are best for the bias cut version. So I know I just said it, that viscose and crepe are the go-tos for a bias cut skirt, but I have been seeing this type of skirt on the high street in lots of different fabric types, and it's gotten me really inspired to do a bias cut skirt in a linen. So this is one of my favorite linens in my favorite color. This is the Minerva Core range enzyme washed linen in mauve. Now, the texture on this is so gorgeous. There's like a slight sheen to the weave, so it really catches the light and you really get that beautiful texture coming through really nicely. It is a medium weight linen, so it's super versatile. And I love that it has like some structure, but also a bit of drape. So I think that that is going to be so perfect as a bias cut wattle skirt. The last pattern I have to share is another dress. It is the named clothing taika dress. And everything about this design just like is romance to me. I love it so much. It is another example of how a classic silhouette with some pretty details can work so well for this summer romance trend. The taika dress has a V-neck, a slightly curved waist seam, and gathers at the bust and center back to give some shaping and volume to the bodice. The skirt has gourd panels to shape that soft A-line of the skirt. It kind of like skims really nicely over the waist and the hips. And the romantic cherry on the top is the little puff sleeve. It is really smooth at the shoulder, and then it comes into some elastic a little bit above the hem, so that creates the nice ruffle and gives the sleeve a nice little poof. Now the taika dress comes in sizes UK 4 to 28, which is a 33 to 56.5 inch hip. It is an intermediate pattern, mostly because there is a separate button placket that runs all the way down the dress, and that can be like a little trickier to handle. Taika is also made for drapier wovens like cotton lawn, viscose challis, and tencel, which by nature are a bit slippier. They require some more patience and a bit more experience in handling. For the taika dress, I have picked a gorgeous viscose crepe from Atelier Brunette. This one is called Vera, and this is the colorway Blush. Now, the print kind of reads as a floral, but it's actually more of an abstract print. So these little like rust and petrol dots create some soft shapes on the blush background. And there's these little like cream lines running through it as well. Now, this low contrast design paired with the crepey texture of this fabric make it a really great choice for the summer romance trend. There's lots of drape, it has tons of movement, it is super light and flowy, and I think it will just be so beautiful made up as the taika dress. So those are my picks for sewing up the summer romance trend this season. It is a pretty broad trend, so I focused on garments with lots of movement, pretty details, in a soft, muted color palette with natural fabrics and beautiful textures. I have loved this trend, and I am so excited to get sewing up some romantic summery pieces for my own wardrobe. And I hope you are feeling as inspired as I am. I would love to know from you guys what aspects of this trend you'll be taking into your summer sewing plans, Let me know in the comments below what you're planning to make this season. And of course, if you have any questions about any of the patterns or fabrics that I mentioned, we would love to answer them. Everything is linked in the description below, so definitely check out the product pages to see what other sewists have made, as well as all of the product details. That's all from me today, but make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and following here on Minerva because we've got new videos, sewing inspiration, and tutorials coming your way all the time. But until next time, happy making. Bye!